Before we even begin, I want to say a few things. First thing is that you can see I have those little sticks here, and we have to use those sticks in plate borders because when we start, they hold everything in place. And as we get started, you will see what I mean by that. Actually, they have two functions. The first function is, as in road borders, they make the first kink. Once again, this material doesn't kink, but they make the first kink. They help make the first kink in the height that you want it to be. But aside from that, they keep things in place in the beginning until we get to the end. The second thing is that I use additional rods in the beginning. And what they do is that, in fact, all plate borders are what I would call doubled, as I've said in my last video. And we have to use these additional rods to double the border from the beginning, because it will be almost impossible to do this at the end, because the tucking at the end will be from the inside, and it will be extremely difficult to do. So all plate borders are doubled, and they are doubled by from the beginning by using these additional rods. So the first thing that's apparent about plate borders, and it looks kind of weird, is that the uprights begin by simply going to the outside like that. They don't go around everything, they just go to the outside. And I want to use these sticks, as I've said earlier, and you'll see in a minute what they do. So I'm just going to the outside and to the right, but not behind anything. And the second thing is that I have to add additional rods here. So I'm taking an additional rod and adding it from the inside, if you will, from the inside like that to the original upright. So now that's the first difference. Now after I've done one, I will take another stick like that and take it down to the right, and it's broken. Never mind, we can still show it. And then add an additional rod here. Now what these sticks will do, this stick, you can see, holds these rods in position. If I were to take it out, then they will jump upwards, and you will not see where you have to get in here. So it really holds it in place until we get to the finishing part, in which I will have two new rods coming from this direction, and getting in here like that, and they will replace this one that just holds things in position. You can see that it's already much more complicated, and in part because we have to hold everything in place when we begin. But it gets even more complicated, and actually I think I would break the beginning part into two parts: the beginning of the beginning and the rest of it, and you'll see why in a second. So when the first, the simplest plate border will be a plate border of 3. There is no plate border of 2. And in a plate border of 3, I will not just take another one, a third one, down like that, and add an additional rod now. Actually, I have to based on what I'm doing, based on how many uprights I'm going in front of, I know how to begin. So if I'm making a plait border of 3, then I will go behind, in front of 2 and behind 1. So that means that after I take down 2, I have to take one of them, the first one, and make a weave to the inside. I'm not making a weaving move like that, a regular weaving move. I'm just kind of weaving it to the inside. And part of what makes plait borders very different is that you always have some of the rods inside and some of the rods outside. So after I've done this, only then I will take the third one outside like that. Now I don't need another stick. That's another thing, because as we've said earlier, those sticks only function as a placeholder for rods that will come later and get in like that. And as you can see here, we've already gotten in, so we don't need a third stick here, even though we are in a plait border of 3. So we're just going down to the outside and adding an additional rod, and that will be the beginning part of a plait border of 3. Now let's look at a beginning of a plait border of 4. Now, before I begin, I have to know which variation I'm making. Am I making in front of 2 and behind 2, or in front of 3 and behind 1? Let's begin by making an in front of 3 and behind 1 plait border of 4. So for this I will need 3 sticks and of course 4 additional rods. And let's begin. That will be 1, adding an additional rod here, 2, additional rod, 3, also holding everything is in position as you can see here. And now, as I've said earlier, we're going in front of 3 and behind 1. So the beginning of the beginning will be to just take down 3, and I forgot to add 1, to just take down 3. And after we've taken down 3, I'm making 1 weave to the inside. Only then will I add the 4th one. Will I take down the 4th one, which will be this one. Taking it down, I don't need a stick, as I've said earlier, because there's already these rods here that hold everything is in position, but I do need an additional rod here. So that will be the beginning of a plait border of 4 in front of 3 and behind 1. Now I also want to say something about those additional rods sticking out here, looking very messy. There is another way to do it, which I like to do it. I haven't seen many people do it, but in fact when we finish those rods here, those ends here will go outside underneath. So why not do it from the beginning? And actually I'm doing it from the beginning, but it really might confuse you. So I will show this classical version in the beginning, and in the end I will talk about my own version, which is to get them out all from the beginning. Now we're going to look at the beginning of a different version of a plait border of 4. We're going to go in front of 2 and behind 2. So here, the beginning of the beginning will be to just take down 2. So I just need 2 sticks here. That will be 1 additional rod and 2 additional rod. That will be the first part of the beginning. And now I'm making 1 weave to the inside. Then the third one comes down without a stick, as we've said earlier. Additional rod added, and then I'm making another weave, and only now will the fourth upright come down. So that will be the beginning of a plait border of 4 in front of 2 and behind 2, if you can see it here. As you can see here, I've started a plait border of 3, so I have 2 on the outside and 1 on the inside. And as I go along, I will always have 2 on the outside and 1 on the inside. So now, how does this process work, and in what way is it different from rod borders? Now, the first thing that is noticeable here that we have some outside and some inside, and what this means is that the movement of the weave is actually broken down into 2. Instead of making this move, which is like a wading move, I'm only doing half this move. I'm only going to the inside. This means that our mantra will be different. We will think of it as segments of 3 steps instead of 2 steps, as in rod borders. We've talked about making 1 weave and then taking down an upright. Now here, there are 3 steps. First, we're making a weave to the inside, then making a weave to the outside, then taking down an upright. So this will be our mantra. 1 goes in, 1 pair goes in, 1 pair goes out, and taking down an upright. Now you can see that I already have triples here instead of pairs, and this is another difference between those family of borders. In rod borders, I will leave the left one, and in plait borders we are leaving the right one. So this one had actually finished its process, so it stays. I'm only taking the 2 left ones, so making 1 weave to the inside, 1 weave to the outside, and taking down an upright. So this now had finished its process, and only these are important. So the right one stays, making 1 weave to the inside, 1 to the outside, taking down an upright. The right one stays, 1, 2, 3. Let's make a couple more of these moves just to get the hang of it. We're going to look now at the process of a plait border of 5, but I'm actually going to do this all the way from the beginning so that you'll get the hang of it. So a plait border of 5 will usually be in front of 3 and behind 2. It can also be in front of 4 and behind 1, but I prefer in front of 3 and behind 2. So in front of 3 means that we're taking down 3 at the beginning, and then we're starting to get in. So 1 goes in, another upright comes down, additional rod here, another one goes in. Just arrange them nicely here if we can. And this will be our 5th and last one. So you can see that I have 3 on the outside and 2 on the inside, and we can begin our process, or middle, if you will. So 1 goes in, 1 goes out. Now you can see here that we have a lot of rods. Which one goes out? Obviously the one on the left, as always. So 1 goes out and taking down an upright, making 1 weave to the inside, 1 to the outside, taking down an upright. And this actually is, I think, one of the most beautiful borders there is. 1 goes in, 1 goes out, taking down an upright. Now you can see that the principles stays the same whatever plait border we are making. You just have to understand the principles and you can do whatever you want. So 1 goes in, 1 goes out, taking down an upright. Don't forget, we're leaving the right one and not the left one, as in rod borders. You can see, really, really beautiful border. We are at the finishing part of a 3 rod plait border of 3. We're not quite there yet, but we'll be there in a sec. So now this goes in, but as we've said in the rod border video, there it might be a little confusing because this upright here has already been taken down. So we might in the beginning use a little stick like that, sticking in here, and we'll see more clearly where we have to get in, just to help us see. So I'm getting in just like that. Now it seems as if nothing is holding it in place at the moment, so we have to hold it. So that would be 1 goes in and 1 goes out, like that. And this little stick can help us see that. Of course, after a while you won't need it anymore. So once we've gone out here, we are taking down the last upright, and after we've done that, this is what I would call the finish. So first thing, the finishing part, I will break it down into 3 steps. The first step will be to get everything in. The second step will be to treat these additional rods, and one of them actually broke here. And the third stage will be to get one of these pairs back out. So let's begin. We said earlier that these sticks hold everything in position, and they also let us see where we have to get in. So we're just doing what this stick is doing here, and now we can get it out. So that will be 1 and 2. Now this, use our bodkin for a minute. This one, can take this out now. And 2, it's much more comfortable to take them in one by one. Alright, now we've gotten everything in. That will be the first step of the finishing. Now let's get all of these sticks here to the upper side. The second stage will be to take care of these sticks, additional rods. So what they have to do is they would go outside in such a way that they join these two like that. But they will not join them all the way. They will not join them so that they will get out alongside with them here. They will only join them from the inside, and when they get out, they will get out underneath everything. So that will be the first. Can you see? Let's just... That will be the first. It goes out underneath everything. Second. There's a lot of risk of breaking here. This is why I like to do it differently in the beginning. But as I said, it might be a little confusing. Alright, and the third one, which actually already broke here, we'll join these two, and it's completely broken. Okay, that will be our second step. And now, out of these three pairs, the right one will go back outside. And it will just, this is very easy actually, it just kind of follows the route of these rods here. Very easy to see. So I might take my bodkin here, and I'm just sticking it in to underneath. That's one. That's two. And last one. We'll go here. And there we have it. We've finished our plate border of 3. And you can see that aside from these, I would say, original uprights that end up outside, we also have these 3 additional rods, and then on the inside 3 additional rods. So a little more to trim at the end, but that's how it's done, and we can start trimming now. We are getting to the finishing part of a plate border of 4 here, and this is a version of in front of 2 and behind 2. And I guess after we finish this, you'll pretty much understand how to make a plate border of 5, 6, or whatever you want. Just taking this. So we've said that here the upright had already come down, so this is the place for us to go. This now will come out. So this is why I don't like to have these rods here, these sticks here. They really get in the way. In the end, I will show a different way to begin, which to me is much more comfortable. So we've taken down the last upright, and to me this really begins the finishing part. Now we've said we have to get everything in, so first pair will get here, getting them in separately, usually more comfortable, and the next pair will get here. I might want to use the bodkin for this. Let's take this out. This is the first. And the second. Let's just tuck them into position nicely. Now, the second part, as we've said earlier, is to take care of these added rods. So they will get out with those pairs that we've gotten in. But here we are getting out behind 2, because this is a border that goes behind 2. So the first one here, you might say the left one here out of these 4, will go to the first one here. And it will join them from the inside, but it will not get outside with them, it will get outside underneath everything. So that's one. Now this one will join this pair. Like so. This one will join this pair, and it's broken. Alright, and last one. Here. Alright, now the last step will be to take the right one out of these pairs here and to get it outside. And actually, as we've said earlier, it's very, very easy to see where it goes, because it just joins this rod here on its root. You can see it very clearly. So only one. Two. Three, and last one. Here. That's it. That would be a plait border of 4, and now we can trim the edges. The first variation type that you can do, we've actually talked about throughout the video. You can play around with the before and after of whatever it is you're making. Suppose I'm making a plait board of 6, I might go in front of 3 and behind 3, I might go in front of 4 and behind 2, in front of 5 and behind 1. I can just play around with it. But we've already been through this, so I'm not going to show it here. What I do want to show is what I would call a tucked in plait border. As we've talked about in rod borders, there's what I would call a tucked in border. So I'm just going to quickly begin a plait board of 3 here, and you'll see what I mean by that. Alright, now when we get to the stage when we have threes, triples instead of pairs, I haven't got there yet, we are going to take all 3 of them to the inside. We're not going to leave the right one here, which had actually finished its job. We're going to tuck it in alongside the 2 others. So we're going to take all 3 like that and continue. Let's just arrange them nicely. Taking all 3 of them. Now when I have to get out, I will leave the left one to stay, and this is the one which we've tucked in, you might say, because it has finished its job here on the outside, and we've tucked it in, and it's going to finish its job on the inside, and we're going to trim it here. So we're just going to use to take out these two and continue going in this way. And you can see now that this variation has 3 rods on the inside and 3 rods on the outside. So some might say it has a prettier look to it, especially in a plait border of 3. Very, very simple variation that can make the whole difference. Let's just make a couple more moves here just to get the hang of it. Notice that I'm arranging them nicely side by side as I'm going along. So, simple variation. Then we're going to have the ends on the inside. Let's see another variation. Another thing that you can do that's incredibly simple and can make all the difference is to add 2 additional rods at the beginning instead of 1. Let's see how that's done. I'm adding 2 additional rods here, and everything works the same except from that. So a very, very simple variation. It's very hard to hold things in place when you begin. And I want to make a plait border of 4. I'm going to try to keep things in place. Right. Fourth one comes down, and you can see that everything works exactly the same, except we've added 2 additional rods. So one goes in, one goes out, and upright comes down. One goes in, one goes out, upright comes down, and you can see that it's much fuller, much thicker just by doing this simple variation. This would be especially suitable to situations in which the gaps between the uprights is too big, you might say. So you want to kind of fill that gap. Also, I can kind of play around with the variation in such a way that I kind of add 2 additional rods at the beginning and also tuck in, so it will be especially thick. I won't do it here because I don't have big enough gaps between the uprights, but you can pretty much play around and do whatever you want. Let's just make a couple more moves here. Look how beautiful that looks. Right one stays. There you have it. Look at this. The last type of variation that I want to show is a side border, and I haven't talked about it in the rod border video because you normally wouldn't do it in rod borders, but you will do it a lot in plait borders. So the first step will be to get the uprights to lie down. So I can take them down behind one or behind two. Let's go behind one here. So each one is going behind one, and that will be our first step. Alright, once we have the uprights lying down, we can start making our side border. This will work exactly the same, but it might be very confusing. It's very hard to understand what you're doing at the beginning. The first thing that's apparent here is that instead of an inside and an outside, you have like an upper side and a downside. So I might want to use different terms to explain what I'm doing. Well, let's begin at plait border of 3. Obviously we'll begin by taking one of these sticks and stick it in place, add an additional rod and another one, and when you're adding this second one, you want it to hold the first one underneath, like that. Hold it in place. And now, what you have to do on side borders like that is that you have to kind of pull on this next upright here, or this next rod here, and to get underneath it, like that. And this one will be our third, so we have to add an additional rod here. And now we begin our process. So as I've said, we have to kind of pull on this one a little bit, tuck this one underneath, and now this one, you might say, gets outside, but you might say it goes down. And here the uprights don't have to be pulled down. You're just kind of taking these rods from inside to the outside, and they immediately automatically take the upright with them. Pulling on it, getting to the inside or the upper side, and back to the outside. So you might say a side border will have like 2 steps instead of 3 in the process. Right one stays, that one, and that's 2. And we might want to arrange it nicely on the side. That's one as already finished. That one. Right one stays. It works the same, but it's much more difficult to handle and to kind of see what you're doing, at least at the beginning. But you can see here that it looks rather gorgeous, a border on the side. So I'm going to break it down now, and we're going to start another side border, which will be a 4 or 5 side border. We're going to make a plait border of 4 because I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough length left for a plait border of 5, and we're going to make a under 2 and above 2 variation. So I just need 2 sticks. First stick it in place, stick the stick, add an additional rod. You want to leave enough length here to get back down above 2. So leave some length left. So that's 1, second one holds the first one underneath. And you might say also the first one kind of holds the one next to it underneath. Add an additional rod. And now, since I'm doing a under 2 and above 2 version, I'm gonna weave to the inside. Add another rod. Another one, and that will be our last rod. And now we are beginning our process. So we have 2 on the downside and 2 on the upside. So as I said earlier, we have to kind of pull on this rod here to get underneath it. We're pulling on it, and we're getting this one to go with it, but above this one, not like that. A little difficult to hold things in position here. Let's just try to put it more on the side. Right one stays. And you can start to see the border here. Let's make a couple more moves here. This is much more difficult. Things tend to jump out of place. But when you're an experienced basket maker, you can manage it. So it looks like something like that. Now I'm going to go all the way around and get to the finishing point so you can see how it's finished. Now we are at the finishing point, and I had to battle around with these additional rods here, which is once again why I don't like to begin like that, and I will show you in a minute how I like to begin to avoid all this mess at the end. So as we've said earlier, the first stick shows us where to get in. Let's use a bodkin here. That's one. You can take the stick out. And that's 2. Alright. As we've said earlier, first we have to get everything in. This will be the first step of the finishing. And his partner joins in. So that will conclude the first step. Second step will be to treat the additional rods. So we've said that the first one, the one on the most left, joins the pair on the most left, and just kind of gets together with it, but doesn't get out together with it, if you can remember. So it gets in with it and gets out underneath everything, like that. So that's one. Let's use our bodkin here. That's 2. Three. and 4. And this one doesn't want to get out. Still doesn't want to get out. But we're going to make him. No, apparently not. Now let's see, big shot. Yeah, that's right. Alright, that will be the second step. And now, for the last step, we are going to have to take the right one out of these pairs and to join it with this additional rod here. So it just kind of follows along its route. We don't have to overthink it, and we're just getting outside. I'm gonna make little cuts here to make it easier for me to get in. One. Two. Where are we going? And last one here. Look at this thing. Beautiful. I've said several times throughout this video that I'm going to show something at the end, and we're finally here. Now this makes my life a lot easier, but it could also make your life a little harder. It might confuse you and make you lose track of what you're doing. So I would say that to begin, you should do the classical version, and when you kind of got the hang of what you're doing, then do this new and improved method. So here I would take the first stick, and now I would actually start with the additional rod. I would kind of stick it to where it needs to be, but take it outside here. And leave some length here. And after I've done that, I will take down the original upright like that. And this first one might kind of jump up sometimes, but it's okay. Now, once again, I'm using a stick, and actually even before I'm using the stick, I will take this new additional rod and just kind of stick it so it goes outside here, leave some length, then put the stick underneath it and take down the upright. So you can see that now the edges of the rods are already on the outside, and it's much more comfortable. Now I'm making a plate board of 3, so I have to get in. And now I will take my third additional rod and add it here. But do not confuse. It gets in together with this stick, but it doesn't get out with it. As we've said earlier, it gets in with it, but it gets out underneath here. Alright? And now we're taking down the original. So now I can start going, and when I get to the finishing part, these will already be on the outside, and it's much more comfortable. It could help prevent a break or an unwanted kink, and it makes life a lot easier. You just have to not get confused and think that the rods that kind of finish here should get in together with this. They should get in together with this stick from the upper side. and they will kind of join this one right here, like that. I want to show this again in a 4 or 5 rod border. Now we're going to make a plait border of 5, so we have to go behind 2 in the beginning. So I'm taking my additional rod here, I'm going behind 2, leaving some length left, putting in the stick, and next one right here. I might want to get in, like put my hand on the inside, get it to the outside, and then like make the weaving move to the outside. Taking the stick. Now, third one from the inside, leaving some length left. Don't forget the stick. And you can see why it might be a little confusing, but I think it's a much better way to start. So after the first three, one gets in, and we continue to add the additional rods in the same way. So this one, as we've said earlier, gets in together with this, but it doesn't get out with it. It gets out underneath, leaving some length left. Now we don't need a stick because we already have the rods here. Another one goes in, and last one from the inside together with this, but doesn't go out with it. Goes out underneath everything. Gets out, and fifth one gets down, and that will be the beginning of a 5 rod border as a plait border of 5 as I like to do it. And now you can start the process. Now let's see how we finish this. We are almost to the finish point here, and now once we've got to those edges on the outside here, we want to put them underneath everything, and it's much easier just going over them instead of kind of dealing with them when they are on the upper side. I'm just going over them. As I've said earlier, they should be underneath everything. So this one goes in, this one goes out, upright joins. Now this one goes in. Now since we have this first rod here, we can't just go in like that. We have to go underneath it. So we're kind of joining this one underneath that one. But once again, we are not joining it from underneath. That will be wrong. So now this one comes out. But not like, actually this first one might be in our way here. This first one might be in our way here. Is it in our way? Perhaps the first one is in the way. And now I took it out for a second and I'm getting it back in. It might be that you want to have the first one up in the air. So now we've gotten our last upright down, and we start the finishing. So these two will join, will get in with the first stick here, and join this one from the inside. Right? They are joining it here. They're not joining it from the below. So that will be one. And now second one will go here with the second stick. Let's use our bodkin here. Right, and they're joined here, as you can see, and last pair goes in here. And take this out now. And to me, that's much easier to use this method. So now to finish, we just have to follow. We actually reduced the finishing into 2 steps because we don't have to deal with these additional rods now. They have already been dealt with. So we just had to get in everything in, and then to take one of these pairs outside along with this. So I'm not going to show it because it's pretty clear.